guest, Judge Ken Starr, is here. He is known for being an appellate judge, the United States Solicitor General, and the independent counsel who investigated President Clinton. And now he is the president of Baylor University. He's here to go on the record about two legal controversies, both involving illegal immigration. Good evening, Ken.
Hey, good evening, Greta. How are you?
I'm very well, but before we get to illegal immigration and SB 1070 and the whole issue about the 14th Amendment, I'm curious, how is your new job as president at Baylor?
Oh, Baylor's a great place. They've been very hospitable. I've been on the job for 2 months. Greta, you need to come down here to beautiful Central Texas and see us. It's a fabulous university, and I'm very honored to be here.
What is the student body? How many?
15,000. We have about 3,200 freshmen just starting. Today was move-in day one. Tomorrow's move-in day two. So it's a large university. It's a private university. It's done so well in the various rankings. In fact, it just received a ranking of an A in terms of the seriousness of and the rigor of the coursework here. But it's a great university with a proud tradition here in Texas. So thank you for asking.
All right, now let's go back to your prior career. You used to be a United States Court of Appeals judge for the D.C. Circuit. SB 1070, an injunction had been handed against Governor Brewer that the United States won part of their request. How's it going to play out in the Court of Appeals?
Well, an appeal has been filed. It's been expedited because an injunction was entered, and so we're going to see briefing over the next 2 months. The argument has been set for the first week in November. I think the prospects for Arizona are not high. This is a very tough case. The judge entered an opinion, about 36 pages. She upheld a lot of the law, about 5 or 6 provisions of the law she sustained, but some of the most controversial provisions she said, no, it falls because this is the power of Congress, and Arizona has intruded into the powers of Congress with respect to immigration.
What do you think about that? Everyone always talks about the Ninth Circuit as being a very liberal court. I was looking at the judges on the Ninth Circuit and trying to look at the list. 2 by President Reagan, 3 by President Carter, 1 by President George H.W. Bush, 12 by President Clinton, 7 by President George W. Bush. Is it unfair for us to sort of play the game, who appointed which judge, and so try to predict, or do judges somehow, I mean, can we predict the outcome a little bit?
Well, I think it's inevitable that people look to who the president was who appointed Judge Bolton, or those who will be serving on the panel that's chosen to hear the appeal. That'll be 3 judges sitting in San Francisco. But here, I think even though it's fair to talk about that, it's appropriate to talk about that. Here, I think that the law is such that it's going to be a very hard case for Arizona, and I'll tell you why. Because the Constitution itself provides for a power given to Congress to establish a uniform rule of naturalization or immigration control. Now, parts of the Arizona law don't affect immigration in that direct way. Employer sanctions, those have been upheld. In fact, the Justice Department didn't even challenge a lot of the provisions of the law. But certain provisions, those in terms of checking immigration papers or checking identity papers and so forth when an arrest is made or when a stop is made, those touch on the powers of Congress to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. It's not that Arizona doesn't have some very good arguments. They do. But it's going to be a very tough argument given, I think, Judge Bolton's opinion, which is a very strong opinion.
What about the other controversy, whether or not, if you're born here in the United States, you become, right now it is you are an American citizen if you're born here. There are some who are seeking to, or at least discussing, trying to revoke that part or rescind that part of the Constitution. What's the historical underpinning of that requirement, and what does it take if those people want to get it changed? What do they have to do?
Well, Greta, I think it would take a constitutional amendment to change that. This is an ancient part of law that we then made absolutely clear in the 14th Amendment, which was ratified after our Civil War. And the 14th Amendment guarantees every person certain rights to due process, to the protection of life, liberty, and property, to the equal protection of the laws. And that is such an important set of protections for all of us as Americans. Americans. But it also begins, that is, the 14th Amendment, this post-Civil War amendment, begins with a very specific definition that a person born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction of the United States is a citizen of the United States. That's pretty clear to me. So I think it would take a constitutional amendment to change it, but it's not as if the ratifiers and the architects of the 14th Amendment just made it up. They were really restoring a very venerable tradition in English law and, frankly, United States law until the infamous decision of the Supreme Court in Dred Scott that held that African Americans, those who were in a condition of servitude, who were slaves, were not citizens of the United States. That was profoundly wrong, and it took a constitutional amendment to overrule that decision of the United States Supreme Court.
Well, we're hearing that some people are trying to game it. There was one report in the Washington Post recently of an organization who was bringing women, Chinese women in the United States to have their babies and then return to China and bestow citizenship on their babies and all the benefits. So they're trying to game it. Is there a way, short of amending the Constitution, to sort of, I mean, not that it's a tremendous number, but it certainly is offensive to many Americans to be gamed like that.
Right. Well, it goes to show that we do need to have control over our borders. I mean, that's what the Arizona squabble is all about. Judge Bolton there, in fact, talked about, and these are her words, rampant illegal immigration. She talked about drug trafficking. She talked about human trafficking. All these are problems in the United States generally, but especially in the border states. Texas, where I'm privileged to live now, it has these kinds of problems. And the folks of Arizona were very upset about this. So it's understandable that people would get upset if someone deliberately comes to the United States just to have a child and then leaves to return to their country. But that's the Constitution. We've got to control our borders better.
All right. Can the state, by any chance, go to federal court and seek a mandamus, since the United States government says that it's a federal government provision? They must control immigration. Can the state go in and get a mandamus ordering the United States to do something?
No, not really. That's why we have elections in this country. That's why we elect members of Congress. The cry is there. It cuts across, I think, party lines. It's an American issue. It's not a party issue, which is we need to have immigration reform in this country, and we need, as part of that, to have control of our borders. But no, it's really at this stage a governmental problem. It's not the kind of problem that the courts can fix.
Judge Starr, thank you very much, and congratulations on the new job at Baylor. Hope you come back soon.
Thanks, Greta. Great privilege to be with you. Come see us here at Baylor.
I will, sir. Next.